So what's been showing up since our last session? What have you been noticing?
Um, I feel like since the last time we met, things have been like pretty smooth and I haven't had any like super strong emotions, I guess I would say.
Okay.
Outside of this morning, just because it's so cold, I feel like honestly, like nothing is working correctly. Like the buses didn't show up. My car is having problems, but I really, like, took away from our last session that, like, awareness that, like, I can allow myself to have the feelings and not
Hmm.
then be, like, adding another layer of issue when I do have those feelings because then I'm, like, upset with myself, like, "Oh, like, you should just keep it together," like,
Yeah.
like, I guess normally, like, not even acknowledging the feelings. So I wouldn't say I had, like, a ton of opportunity to practice that over the past week because I felt, like,
Yeah.
better since last week, but really just this morning when I was like, "Okay, like, it's totally valid. I feel like I'm allowed to feel frustrated." Um, yeah, and I guess just, like, being aware of that, and allowing myself to feel those things and acknowledging it as I move forward.
Yeah. What did you notice in giving yourself permission to acknowledge what was alive and what was real and not
Mhm.
beat yourself up or ignore it?
I mean, just, like, the overall sense of, like, feeling, like, a little bit better about things, to be honest. I mean,
Oh.
and I guess just having that perspective, like, in the moment, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's easier to, like, gain that perspective, like, after a moment has passed, but in the moment when I was starting to feel, like, my insides, like, starting to like, I could feel the stress starting to rise, and, acknowledging it in the moment, I think was really helpful because I don't really tend to do that, like, I kinda just get through it, then maybe, like, later on, if I reflect, if I allow myself that time, but yeah, I never really have done it in the moment.
Yeah. That's kind of not kind of, that's really huge that you acknowledge
Mhm.
in the moment and you
Yeah,
said felt good, like, it seems like it created more ease is what I was kinda hearing for you, like,
totally.
not saying it was an easy situation, but by acknowledging the feelings and not denying them, you're like, "Oh, wait, now I have more freedom on the other side of this."
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, totally.
That's really cool, and so you did practice.
Yeah, well, then I was, like, thinking about it as the week like, after we met as, like, the week went on, and I just felt like things were pretty stable. Not that they're not always stable, but I guess just, like, emotionally, they were stable, and I don't know if it was just because, like, the session last week was hard, and I, like, released a lot of my feelings, and then didn't feel like they were kinda, like, churning underneath, as things came up, I guess, I don't know, it just
Yeah.
I didn't feel like that same intensity, I guess.
And was that kind of steady before, like, that churning underneath and intensity?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Was that kind of steady before, like, when you didn't acknowledge it or ignored it?
There were times that it could be, yeah.
Okay,
Other
cool.
times where no, I felt like, "Okay, yeah, I got this, like, whatever, no big deal," but then I think
Yeah,
it can be like a slow build for me, like, it's like a slow build, and then there would be periods of time, like, yeah, where I could really feel that underneath until I kinda feel like, "Okay, yeah, I can't handle this anymore."
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Because I know we were working more with, like, the sadness last week, so I wanted to see, is there anything you did when you acknowledged the frustration today? Did you do the Muse method? Whatever you say is perfect. There's no wrong answer.
I didn't in the moment because I was at the gym.
Okay.
And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna, like, give myself this because I had gotten everything like organized, gotten like dropped one
Mhm.
of the kids off at school, and then the other one was supposed to take the bus, but then she was like, the bus didn't come, the bus didn't come. And so then I was like trying to deal with that. And like, and part of me feels like selfish because it's like, I should have just not gone to the gym and just stayed home and driven everybody to school. But Tuesday mornings are like the one class that I don't want to miss. And it's just like, really important to me. And I didn't go Friday because the kids had off and I like was prioritizing them. I didn't go Saturday and Sunday. And then yesterday I didn't go to the class I wanted to because the kids had like they needed rides and stuff like that. So I did go, but I didn't get to do the class. So I was just like, okay, I really want to make the class happen this morning. And so
Mhm.
then I left, got everybody like organized, left to take my son to school, got to the gym, was doing the class. And then my daughter was like, the bus never came. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to be so late. Um, and then like my mind is just like, see, like this is just how it's always going to be. Like it's just everything is so much of a struggle, like it's like hard, like nothing ever goes smoothly. And like, I mean, I thankfully my older daughter wasn't driving her car, so I could borrow her car because mine's having issues.
Right.
Um, but I was just like, okay, I got to the gym. And like that was like felt like its own feat. And
Yeah.
then when the bus didn't come and I was like, okay, like am I just gonna leave and like go drive her to school? Like, oh, I shouldn't have even come. I should have just stayed home and driven her. Um, So I didn't do the muse method, but I like definitely let myself acknowledge how I was feeling.
Yeah.
Um, with the hope that it would like lessen the length of time that I was feeling,
Mhm.
I guess just it's not like that specific moment is more than I can handle. I think it's just like what it represents for me that I just have this like overall feeling of like
Yeah.
I'm fighting for every minute of my life to like have something for myself.
Yeah. And that just amplified it. Like that
Mhm.
of fighting for every moment to have for yourself. It was,
Mhm.
and you said, I mean, you acknowledged it, and in the moment, it did lessen it. It sounds like
Mhm.
just through that practice of acknowledgement, which is huge.
Mhm.
And I heard you like, what did that do for you by shoulding on yourself? Like, I shouldn't have even come. I shouldn't have, blah, 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 fill in the blank. What did that create for you?
I mean, it just like creates this like negative spiral where it like takes me to this place of like, see, like, I mean, you keep thinking like, oh, things are getting easier, but like, are they really, and I need to like nip that kind of like negative self-talk spiral in the bud because it's easy to fall into it.
Yeah. Well, and you got to see that today,
Mhm.
to witness that. Like you acknowledge the frustration and you also notice that your mind will go into, I'm being selfish. I shouldn't have even come. Everything is so much of a struggle. Nothing is easy. And then it just takes you into that negative vortex.
Mhm.
And it doesn't sound like it creates anything for you. So I mean, what do you feel like it is doing for you? It's doing something for you, even if it's not what you want. It's doing something.
Hmm. I don't know. I guess partly maybe it makes me feel good to acknowledge that it yeah, it's like, okay, I guess it's like a bad cycle because I think like it makes me feel good to like acknowledge that like things are hard
Yeah.
because I don't think I allow myself to acknowledge that a lot, like out loud with people. I'm
Yeah.
always just like, yeah, everything's fine. Like I got it all. Like, oh, I don't need help, like so I feel like in a way it's like allowing myself to acknowledge it, even if it's just to myself. But
Mhm.
then like the negative side is that I like spiral with those negative thoughts because my mind likes to be like really like beat myself up.
Yeah. So then you get kind of stuck in that loop of the self beat up.
Mm-hmm.
And like, is there anything you notice in your body? Because like I know your head's going in the loop of self beat up. Is there anything you notice in your body when you're in that loop? And it's okay if you don't.
I guess like in the moment, probably no, but I do think that it makes me really tense, and that then like makes my shoulders hurt because I have like struggle with like shoulder pain. And I mean, I have had a really bad headache for a while, but I'm like thinking I went to the chiropractor today hoping that like the adjustment will help. But yeah, I think it just makes my body really tense, which in turn then like makes me like a little bit achy, especially in the areas that are like more problematic.
Yeah. Awesome. So you are aware.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to experiment with doing something new?
Yeah.
And it's not about perfection. It's
Mhm.
honestly about just when you notice it to start to do that, to start to shift the pattern. Because by you going to the gym, you know, are you being selfish or are you being centered in self and taking care of your needs so that you have more to give to your children?
Mhm. I mean, it's like half of me knows that, and the other half is like, "Yeah, that's just like a lie you're telling yourself,
Right.
to make yourself feel better."
Right.
Um, but it's like I know it, and it's just like any other day I'm willing to like make the sacrifice and be like, "That's fine, I'll just skip what I wanna do, and I'll just work out on my own." But it's just this one class that I always it's just like the one that I feel like works my body the hardest and just makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I definitely like rationally know that like, okay, I mean, like she's, 12 years old. It's and the bus comes right outside our door. It's not like she had to stand outside, like I know all these things.
Right. But
It's
this
just
is
like
where, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it just sometimes feels like I don't know. Like it's easy for me to think like, yeah, it's just like the universe is like working against me, or like things are just like working against me. Like, of course the bus didn't come, and but then I'm like, okay, it's cold. Like, I mean, that's totally normal. The buses are probably like not working well. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like an internal battle because I see like both sides. It's not like I can't see the
Yeah.
rational side.
Right. It's like there's like a tug of war kind of happening internally.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting the picture of like there's like these two sides of you that are like battling of like, I know I'm being centered in self and I'm being full of self by doing these things. And there's this other part that's like, well, the universe is against you and you shouldn't have even come and all those stories.
Mm-hmm.
And interrupting it could look something as simple as, because your brain, what it's doing is it's trying to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
And our brains are designed to protect and replicate. That's what they do. That's what they're here for, protecting us and replicating what we have known, even if it's not safe and like, even if it's really miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Because like this isn't actually what you want. When you start into that negative self beat up spiral and that, like you're in that loop, your body starts to tense up, your shoulders start to ache, and you have a headache. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're carrying the weight of the world, and then your body's literally showing you, yep, I'm carrying the weight of the world, and this is feeling impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So, from that place, it's really hard to be open to other possibilities because, like, you're like this. Like, bring
Mm-hmm.
your hand into a fist, like, squeeze one hand into a fist.
Okay.
Now we're going to take the other hand and like try to peel it open. As you're squeezing the fist, try to peel it open with the other hand. What do you notice as you're trying to do that?
I mean, I can make some progress, but it's just definitely like yeah, I mean, it's like a losing battle.
Right. Like is your fist getting tighter and tenser as you're trying to like pry it open?
Totally.
Okay, so now let's take that hand rather than prying it open. We're just gonna wrap it over on it. Just wrap it on top of it. Now,
Okay. What was the question?
what do you notice now as you just put your hand on top of it, just like kind of holding it?
Yeah, the hand that's in a fist is more relaxed.
So it's just
Right.
naturally softening, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
You don't have to actually try. It just
Mhm. Mhm.
oh, I don't have to hold so hard versus you
Mhm.
forcing it of like, ugh, I shouldn't have come. Nothing is easy. Oh, I'm gonna just keep fighting this as opposed
Mhm.
to, I'm gonna be with this.
Mhm.
So are you willing to start to have some conversations with your brain?
Mhm. I mean, I need to because I want the change. So I definitely want to. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so what that could look like, let me illustrate real quick through a story. So for my birthday, I had a beautiful birthday. I got to be with a monarch butterfly. Like I got to sit with it for like hours as it was drying because I saved it from getting eaten or taken by seaweed out to the water. And then I was with a dear friend. We were walking the labyrinth. I had butterfly wings on. It was awesome. Went out to dinner. Awesome day. Not on my phone at all. And then I get home at night and I'm looking at my phone, looking at the messages of everybody that messaged me. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet, listening to the messages. And then I start to think about, this person didn't message me. This person didn't message me. That continued for a couple of minutes, I'm not gonna lie. And then I was like, oh, I love you, brain. I know you're trying to protect me and you're trying to focus on everybody that did not message me, but this is not actually supporting me. My body feels the tension and tightness. And now you've literally sucked all the joy out of the day that I just had. Let me go back to the messages of people that actually saw me and celebrated me on my birthday. Because I'm going to
Mm.
guess people that didn't either forgot because I might not be on their calendar and they didn't go on Facebook, or they're human. So I stopped and I had a conversation with my brain. I said, brain, just be curious as to what I notice now. When I shift my focus into what I do want, notice what happens. And I'm giving my brain that task of staying curious because our brains need something to do. But
Mhm.
when we don't give our brain something to do, like what we've been taught by the world, it starts to go into the self beat up cycle and you're not doing it right. You're not doing it enough. You're not doing all the things you're not doing well
Mhm.
or beating yourself up in the process, both of them. So it does take practice to move you to the other way, but you're literally starting to rewire your brain when you start to have these conversations like, I love you, brain. I know you're trying to protect me and keep me safe, and the only way you've known how. But this doesn't actually work. My body gets all tense. I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. My head starts to hurt. And then I start to go into a bad place with all of these thoughts. So I would like for you to just start to be curious with what I notice in my body. So we're going to focus on what you notice in my body, brain. That's what we're going to focus on. I'm going to keep you safe, but we're going to do this a new way. We're going to listen to my body now rather than to my brain that's
Mhm.
focused. Like if you're operating just from your brain, it's like you're operating with blinders on. When you operate from your body, now you have 360 degrees of information.
Mhm.
You have access to much more. But when you're just coming from here, you're only accessing, like if you picture yourself like a pie, a circle, you're accessing 1/8 of the pie.
Mhm.
Come to your body, now you're accessing the 7/8 because it still has access to your brain and the rest of you.
Mhm.
So it can start like you notice the negative spiral, you're in the loop. Oh, there I go again. I love you, brain. We're going to do the Muse method. Come back into my body.
Mhm.
Tell your brain we're going to be curious. Like saying these things out loud, getting it out of you. Like those thoughts live in your brain, right? They're in the darkness.
Mhm.
And it's like the movie Gremlins. Did you ever see Gremlins?
Mhm.
Don't the gremlins multiply in the darkness?
Mhm.
Yep. But when you bring them out into the light, they die. So it's
Mhm.
a similar concept by you speaking it out and being like, I love you. I know you're trying to keep me safe. We're going to listen to my body. I'm going to keep you safe. We're doing it a different way. And then do the Muse method, even if it's only for 30 seconds. And then just keep inviting your brain to stay curious. How does that
Mhm.
sound?
Yeah, it sounds good. And I totally recognize the importance of like verbalizing, whether I guess it's to yourself, which I haven't done, verbalizing just out loud those like negative thoughts and like feelings and just like problems. Um, Yeah, because I think like a lot of, I mean, I even say to like my teenagers, it's just like I think sometimes people just don't want to say it because it's like feels like, oh, giving like acknowledging it actually is like worse because I shouldn't even acknowledge that I feel this way or that I have this problem. But there definitely is like a level of relief to just get it out there. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I haven't done that with just with myself. So
yeah. And you even said, like, just by speaking it out and acknowledging the negative spiral, it felt good.
mm-hmm.
So it did shift things already.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be real, like you said, it's easy because our brains are like Teflon to positivity and Velcro to negativity. So it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to think that the universe is working against you. But when you are trying to do everything yourself and take the weight of the world on with your family and trying to, I've got it, I'm going to do it. Well, maybe the universe in that way isn't working with you because you're not working with the universe. You're not asking the universe to work with you. You're like, I got
Mm-hmm.
it. Don't worry. I got it all. You don't have to help me. I got it, universe. I'm going to do
Mm-hmm.
it. How does the universe support you when you've got it all?
Yeah, it's like I won't even allow it to help me. I mean, I can't complain that it's not if I'm not even like allowing that to happen. So, because in that moment, when I was talking to my daughter on the phone at the gym and I was like starting to feel all these things. So, I've got it's kind of like a cousin, but not like a blood related, in town with her two daughters who are both teenagers to like look at some colleges. So, they're staying with us for the week, and they were still home this morning and I knew she would be more than happy to drive my daughter to school. So then I just said, I will call her and ask. And she was like, oh my gosh, of course. I'm totally like, no problem. I'm still in my pajamas. Like, it's no problem. I can drive her. And texted me like, oh, I'm so, so happy to help. So I was like, part of me like felt bad that I asked, but then I was like, look, she said like, yes, of course, I'm happy to help. Like, so that again, I guess I felt that like internal struggle. Like I felt like, see, look, there is actually somebody home. Like it's the chances of somebody being home that could help is like 1 in a million. She just happens to be in town. And,
Whoa.
it's like she just happened to be in town. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna call her and ask. And then my daughter's like, oh no, like I don't know. And I was like, it's gonna be fine. I mean, she's so friendly. I think it's just, like maybe like a level of awkwardness. But it was totally, yeah, worked out.
Okay, Sarah, that was huge. You didn't even mention that that happened, that you
Yeah.
reached out and you were super vulnerable and you asked for help.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Mhm.
Of course, there's a part of you that feels bad because you're so used to doing everything yourself that there's
Mhm.
a part of you that's like, this isn't right. I've got to do it. If it's going to get done, I got to do it.
Mhm. And like, oh, there are guests, like I shouldn't be imposing or like is she thinking like what the hell? Why are you at the gym if your kid is here and needs to get to school? Not that she's like that. I doubt she even thought that.
Right. What
It's
if
just
she's like, oh my,
me
right,
projecting that.
right. So are you willing to start to even ask, is that even true? Like your brain's going to make all these stories up. Like, what if that was a blessing that she gets to stay with you to look at these colleges and she gets to support you and your family because she gets to stay there and not have to think about that?
Mhm.
And you're allowing her to give something to you in return for her staying there. It's like the
Mhm.
reciprocity, like you're allowing that.
Mhm. Mhm. That is true cuz yeah, I I guess I haven't really, like, allowed it to be reciprocal because it's like we, like, prepared everything for them to come and, like, I shifted the kids around so that they could, like, have their own space and, like,
Yeah.
bought food and, like, did everything just so, like, it would be easier for them. And she the whole time has been like, "What can I help with?" And I'm like, "No, I got it. Like, I totally got it." But, um, yeah, I guess I just, like, hadn't opened myself up to the opportunity to, like, allow her to step in and help, so
Yeah. This is like, that's really huge. Like,
Mhm.
and by you honoring your need to work out every day, you're also showing your kids and your cousin that your needs are important and you are important and you need to do these things to do everything else. Like taking care of you is a priority.
Mhm.
And like you're showing them, which is a beautiful thing to show our kids so that they don't just constantly martyr themselves and give everything away and then get end up really frustrated and exhausted.
Mhm.
But you might need to interrupt your brain in the thoughts because it's going to tell all these stories that, like you said, you're like that's not even true. And now you have the realization that like this was actually it was a blessing.
Mhm.
So like when we make a choice and then we start to pair it with like self beat up or I feel bad for asking for help, it's actually sucking the life out of the choice that was a blessing to ourselves.
Mhm.
But when you choose something, how are my choices? Are you willing to start to ask, like, how are my choices a blessing to everyone involved, including me?
Mhm.
And then start to look for how it's blessing everyone involved. Because this is now you're able to see, oh my God, it was truly a blessing because she wants to help.
Mhm.
And we've totally reorganized our lives so they could stay here and like do things for them. And I've got it the whole time they've been here. And this is her way to give something back.
Mhm. Mhm. And yeah, I guess also just because I know when, like we talked about before, like when people have asked, like friends have asked me for help, do I just do it out of obligation or do I actually feel happy doing it? And I do feel happy doing it. But then, like, why don't I give myself that same thought, like if I want to ask someone else for help, that they're not just going to do it out of obligation, like, oh, great, I got to help. But that maybe they'll be like, oh, yeah, totally. I'm happy to.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, let's be real. You are so used to being so self-sufficient and efficient at getting it all done. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it feels really hard to say I need help. Like it
Yeah.
feels really hard to ask for help because you're like, I got it. I got it. Don't worry, I got it. I got it.
But then I like create this like weird unhealthy dynamic because I am like, yeah, I got it. I can do it all myself. But then at the same time, I'm like, this sucks. Like I feel like I always have to do everything myself.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, you can't have it both ways. You can't be like, yeah, I can do it myself. But then like, oh
Right.
gosh, I really wish. I think it's just like the guilt because like if I had like a partner in the home and really like if it was the kid's dad who like to me he's like just as obligated to provide the same level of support, right?
Right.
um then I think, I know in that instance like that, yeah, I would have no guilt. It would just be like, oh, like, yeah, we got to share this, like I can't do everything.
Right. But I'm gonna ask because I think we went over this last week. Is it truly are you doing something wrong by asking for support and help?
No, I know that I'm not. Yeah, it's not wrong to ask for support. Yeah.
So then are you sitting in the discomfort of asking for help and being vulnerable?
Yes. I would say yes, I'm allowing myself to do that, and I think part of me is I know why I'm doing it, like, I'm doing it because I don't want people to be like, "Oh, man," like, I I don't know, like, I'm kind of, like, stuck in this friendship, like, where this person, like, asks me for help all the time, or, like, like, if it's, like, your family, like, "Oh, of course, we always gotta help Sarah because she's, like, screwed up her life and has all these kids and, like, not, like, a husband." Um, so, like, I understand why I'm doing it, but, like, I also recognize that it's, like, wrong because I know, like, a lot of people would. And I've gone out of my way to, like, help friends, and I know that they would reciprocate.
Yeah. Are you willing to start to let them reciprocate and
Mhm.
earn what you freely give?
I need to. Yeah, I mean, I want to.
Well, even interrupting the thoughts, like when you're noticing, I feel guilty. Did I do something wrong? No. Okay. Oh, I'm actually, am I just sitting in the discomfort of asking for help in a way that I'm not used to because I'm so used to having all my shit together all the time
Mhm.
and not and continuing to feed the story of I don't want people to think that I need help all the time because I don't have my shit together because, I've got all these kids and I'm not married anymore.
Mhm.
Because by you're feeding that story, essentially.
Mhm.
So by you interrupting the story, because what I hear in that is you keep burying Sarah in the process. You keep burying yourself and you're like, this sucks. I got to do everything. Do you have to do everything or are you taking that burden on because you don't want to feel like you need help?
Mhm. Mhm. And I guess just because I maybe like partly okay, so like my sister has 4 kids and is married and she and I are not close, but when I see the way like she lives her life, like she in my mind doesn't really do anything and her husband does everything and I guess I don't like that, and when I look at that I don't like it. And then I'm like, okay, like I feel better, which is just like self-serving, I guess. Like, oh, I feel better because like, look, I'm not relying on everybody and like I'm not like placing my burden on everybody else. Like like I'm taking ownership of the choices that I've made. And even if it's like, oh, I have to pay the price for that, then I will. But it's just all just like a mind game to myself. It's like dumb. I don't know why we all do this. Yeah, I don't know why I do that.
You don't have to know why. What if we let go of the why? What else is possible? Because if we flip the script, I get a sense that there's a little bit of envy that your sister doesn't have to do much and she has a partner that she can rely on. And that might not be true.
I think in her situation, no. I think because there are other like couples, like my brother and his wife, where maybe I do feel like if there were a couple that if I feel like I don't struggle with envy, but like if there was like a model couple or like, wow, that must be really nice to have that like level of support,
Right.
that would be them. Yeah, because it's like, she's got like a career, but then my brother like does a lot of the child rearing and they have like a live-in nanny who does all the shopping and laundry. And I'm like, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they still get to have a life. Um, I don't know. I guess that like the idea of envy, and maybe that is envy, but yeah, I guess I just feel like I respect that like their like partnership, and I like it makes me, yeah, it's like I'm happy for them.
Yes. And when I say envy, what I'm pointing to is what you're desiring,
Mhm.
which is having some level of support of not having to do it all.
Mhm.
So that's
Yes.
that even with your, I think you said sister or sister-in-law, um, was like just having that support, not necessarily envying her and how she does
Mhm.
life, but that having support in general, which you don't have in your situation. But
Mhm.
what if by you doing it all the time, you're actually blocking out the support that could be here for you?
Mhm. No, and yeah, I mean, that's like valid. I think part of me also I don't like to open myself up for like emotional support or, like physical support and then be let down because that is like very painful. And so
Yeah.
then I think that's why, like, a lot of times I just kind of like closed myself off
Yeah.
to, yeah, to like allowing that because I'm like, oh, most people just kind of let you down anyway.
Mhm.
um, which isn't fair. I mean, we're all human and everybody makes mistakes, but yeah, it's just, I guess I kind of like overgeneralize it.
Yeah. Well, and let's, to be fair, you were in a marriage and you opened yourself up emotionally for support and you were let down in a sense.
Hmm.
So that story might be really loud because of what you've experienced with somebody you thought you probably could have trusted that was supposed to be there and have your back and not just your back, have the kids back.
Hmm.
And what if it looks different than what you thought it was going to look like? Because when you're staying armored up, like you're essentially staying armored up of like, I got it, I'm gonna do it all, I got my shit together, I'm gonna keep being strong for everybody. But on the
Hmm.
inside you're crumbling and there's times where you're frustrated, there's times where other things are showing up because you're not meant to do it alone.
Hmm.
But it does require, well, maybe not require, it's a practice of softening so that you can open up to start to discern who could be support for you.
Hmm.
And you have knowings of that. You've mentioned it with friends.
Hmm.
And it's not saying they're always going to be there. It's
Hmm.
you're going to trust that they're going to say yes when it's a genuine yes, just like you are learning to do, and not do it out of an obligation.
Hmm.
And what if right now we're working on your discernment muscles as well as your receiving muscles. Like we're working to build some of those things. And like today, you built some of your receiving muscles.
Hmm.
You had the courage to ask for help, and it was a blessing.
Hmm.
So that can be proof for your brain when it gets scared, because it's going to get scared of asking for help and opening yourself up. Because
Hmm.
down in the fall. I see you. It's okay that we're scared. Because the fear might be there to breathe some new life into you to be like, actually, I really do want support. I'm so tired of doing it all by myself.
Hmm.
So I'm going to be brave and I'm going to ask this friend for support and just be open that even if they can't do it, something else will come through.
Hmm.
But right now, you're closing the door of all possibilities by doing it all yourself. Is that true?
Hmm. Hmm. And I would say when I was in the relationship, this past one with Eduardo, I could feel myself like softening and like becoming reliant. And I actually didn't really like it. I was like, oh, okay. Well, look, now if this doesn't work out.
Uh,
And yeah, I mean, I truly, it was the first time. And I would say emotionally and just like with tasks, I relied on and was open to relying on him way more than I did in my marriage because I just felt like in my marriage, even though it was much longer,
yeah,
it like was not that support was just like not there.
right.
Um, so when that ended, it was like extremely painful because
Mm,
it was like, I mean, the loss of the relationship, but then like I had actually like allowed myself to become like somewhat reliant on another person. Um, And it
yeah.
was just kinda like, "Oh, see, like, that's why it's almost better to just, like, not." It feels easier, I guess I should say, to just, like, maintain versus, like, open yourself up to that and then, like, be torn down and then have to kinda, like, build your way back up.
Yes, I hear you. And you said you didn't like it. Like you said, you felt yourself softening and becoming reliant, but you didn't like it.
Mhm.
Story started. If this doesn't work out,
It would just be like a kind of like a fleeting moment. I'm like, oh, like this is like so nice. Like I can actually, and then I'd have this like fleeting thought of like, oh, you know, like you gotta be careful, you know, like that kind of like thing in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
Um, and now, you know, like now we are still like communicating regularly, but at like a distance. And um yeah, I'm like curious if that like wall, I don't know, like I've definitely like built up like a big wall now to ever really feeling like that way in a like romantic relationship.
Right. But even then, like even when it was you were softening and becoming reliant, there was this sense of this is so nice and better be
Mhm.
careful. So then there was that wall, and it might have been a softer wall, but there was still a wall that was placed between you and Eduardo that kind
Mhm.
of kept him a little bit more at a distance, and so you don't get too hurt.
Mhm.
So I was, are you open to doing the Muse method? Because that showed up now, and this is a way for you to learn to be with some of the uncomfortable parts because there's a part of you that is really scared of getting hurt.
Mhm.
But everything we love, we will lose. At some point in our life, everything we love, we will lose.
Mhm.
Life, we will. But if we stay close to it, we're not actually allowing the love we say we want in. We're not allowing the support we say we want in because we might get hurt. So we're letting the fear now dictate how we show up. So let's be with that for a moment and then see what wants to move from there.
Mhm.
So we'll do the Muse method for just a minute. So let's
Okay.
close our eyes, let's deepen our breath. Let's bring our hands to connect and just really sink into you and all that's here, not fixing it, changing it, being with all of you, even these harder parts. And now, as you're breathing life into that inner fire of Sarah, let it start to just naturally, as the fire, as you're stoking the fire with your breath, imagine those stuck places of putting that armor on and protecting yourself are like ice. And as with every breath you take, your fire's getting brighter and it's just slowly melting or vaporizing those places where you feel stuck right now. So I'll walk you back in about a minute. So just stay plugged in, Sarah. I'm going to ask a couple of questions and just notice what shows up in your body. If anything, and if words come through, that's awesome too. Maybe there's visualization, senses, whatever shows up. So, how are you losing yourself in order to keep yourself protected? And you can name if anything shows up.
I mean, I have like this picture. It's like a kind of like a turtle in a shell. Like I just feel like I'm never really like allowing myself to I'm always like keeping myself protected by the shell and I'm never really like allowing myself to like expand beyond it, which is really limiting.
Yeah. So it feels limiting. So just you can keep holding on to that. So in what spaces, what places in your life do you feel like you can breathe and expand more?
I would say like emotionally opening up to those people that I'm close to, but like I feel like I do like a decent job at that with like the people that I'm close with, but I guess more than that, like allowing myself to ask for and be open to the help that other people could offer, just like with kind of like getting through the day type stuff.
Okay. So what actions could you take to support that then?
Reaching out and asking for help to those people that I know want to help and being open and allowing that to happen without like then beating myself up because that kind of defeats the purpose of allowing the help to like enter my life if the whole time I'm just kind of beating myself up about it.
Well, if that happens, it could happen because that's been your way of being, right? That's
Mhm.
what your brain is replicating, self beat up. So just notice if you reach out and ask for help for those people that you know want to help you. If the self beat up happens, would you be willing to just be with that and say, "Oh, I see you. I'm going to be with you. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna make you wrong. I'm not going to fix you because it's here for you. It's here because it wants to breathe some new life into you, and it's
Mhm.
getting your attention the only way it knows how, which is beating you up right now."
Mhm.
So when it's there, rather than being like, "Ah, I just want that to go away. I'm just going to deny it." No, it's here for you. It's like, I want you to receive this help. So this is my way to get your attention so that you can be more open to receiving the help.
Mhm.
And then I want to do a little practice because we're working with a little bit of an air emotion here with that fear working about like the fear of reaching out for help or the fear of not being um, like the people following through or whatever that is. So when you're in fear, you're in this space, right? Do you feel like that? Like you're more contracted and you're just
Mhm.
armored kind of? So what's
Mhm.
the opposite of that for you? Like when you're stuck in that turtle shell, what would be the opposite of that?
Like physically,
Yeah, physically in your body.
I think just like feeling, I guess, just like overall more relaxed. I mean, when I'm tight and contracted and like, yeah, like kind of like that visual of being in the shell, I mean, your body's just like super tight and tense. So,
Right. So then would the opposite be like opening up?
mhm.
So let's do that. Open up. Just close your eyes and open up and feel that now in your body. Notice what you're noticing in your body now as you just open up and breathe a little bit new life into you. So just feel that in your body. Where do you feel like you can breathe and expand even more now in your body?
I mean, I guess if I was standing, my legs were like more spread
Do
out.
you want to stand up then? Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead. Hmm. Now, what do you notice here?
I mean, my body feels way less
Mm,
tight. Like, it's kind of like when you're living in something or like experiencing it and it's over, and then you realize, like, oh my gosh, wow, I didn't realize how much that was affecting me. It's kind of like that feeling, like where you don't even realize how tight and tense your body is, I guess, until you relax it and like open it up more.
So would you be willing to start to practice that as you're starting to reach out and ask for help for the people that you can trust? And when the self beat up happens, do the muse method, even if it's only for 10 seconds. Where can I breathe and expand more? Right now, I can breathe and expand more into my body because I am shutting down. All parts of me are trying to beat me up right now. Okay, brain, just stay curious. What are we noticing? There was a smile on your face even when you were seated, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Just by shifting your posture, you lit up.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than staying stuck in the self beat up, that it will continue. It's going to keep burying you underneath. It's going to keep burying you into the dirt. I'm not doing that anymore. That's not working for me. You have plenty of evidence of why that does not work for you. You can
Mm-hmm.
tell your brain why it does not work.
Mm-hmm.
Try something new. I've got you. I'm going to keep you safe. I've kept you safe our entire life. We're just doing it a different way where my body's starting to lead. Stay curious, brain. What do you notice? Because here, are you more open to receive the support that you're calling in?
Totally.
Are you more open to receiving that love from
Mhm.
all of that support just by being more open?
Mhm.
Are you willing to experiment with that this week?
Mhm.
And it's subtle because, like, how do you notice the fear thoughts are showing up or that like self beat up is happening? Is there anything that happens in you to you that you notice?
Hmm. I don't know. I guess I feel like I can keep those like thoughts and feelings at bay for a decent amount of time, and then like something might just like happen, and like this morning or whatever, where then it like kind of all comes flooding in.
Mhm. And where does
Um,
that show up in your body, that flooding in?
I mean, I guess it just comes flooding in, and I mean, I'm sure I feel tense, but I think that's why like I prioritize working out so much because it feels really good to like get all that tension out.
Yeah. Okay. So you do know it feels really tense.
Mhm.
Been trying to keep it at bay.
Mhm.
These things are now getting a little bit louder because you're more connected to yourself than you've ever been in your life.
Mhm.
Doing the news method more regularly, and you're connecting to yourself and expanding into you, prioritizing you, valuing you. So now
Mhm.
it might seem as if these voices, they might be getting louder because they're like, yes, she's listening to me. She hears me. I'm going to make sure she knows I'm here because they're ready to be met. And maybe now you have capacity to meet them and not make them
Mhm.
wrong and say, oh, I see you. I love you. We're doing it a new way.
Mhm.
Because I'm going to guess those were always there. They were just underneath the surface. And as long as you stayed busy long enough and efficient long enough, you didn't have to worry about them.
Mhm.
But now they're starting to have some space to because you're listening and they're like, "Oh, she hears me now." Yes.
Mhm.
Could
That
that
makes
be?
sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I promise they're not wrong and it is totally normal.
Mhm.
I the imagery of like going into a house. Did I ever talk?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Mhm.
it's like we've started to remove the soundproofing by you connecting, and now like they're banging, and maybe they've even cracked open the door and it's covered in cobwebs, and they're like, "Oh yeah, she can hear me," and it may feel like it's getting louder because you've removed all the soundproofing,
Mhm.
and now you're starting to open up the door of possibility of, I want more support. I am sick and tired of doing it on my own. I'm not going to deny it anymore.
Mhm.
I'm going to start to lean in and I'm going to start to reach out and ask for help from the people I can trust. That doesn't mean they're going to say yes. Nope. It's just saying you're going to be vulnerable enough to ask, to trust yourself enough when you need support, like this morning, you're going to ask for it.
Mhm.
And just look for what happens when you start doing this. Just start to notice what other things start to shift
Mhm.
when you start to just open up yourself to receiving what it is you truly desire rather than trying to do it all yourself.
Mhm.
And if nothing
Yeah.
happens,
Mhm. I think when I think about it in that way, I have spent so much of my life like kind of like running from my feelings by keeping busy and by being efficient in the hopes that I could just get the sad and like bad feelings to go away. But with that also, it's like I'm not really allowing like all of the good feelings either. I'm just kind of like keeping all the feelings at bay.
yeah.
Um, Yeah, so that idea, I guess, of just like allowing the negative feelings to just like kind of come to the surface and like work their way up and then like work their way out, then I can have more access to like the positive feelings too.
Yeah. You can have more access to all the feelings.
Mhm.
But when you numb part of you, like the bad feelings, I don't think they're bad feelings. They're here for you. They're honestly here
Mhm.
to move. When you mute those, you mute the joy and the love and everything else you say you want. Because you can't just numb, just like a prescription. You can't just put that band-aid on part of you. It goes to all of you.
Mhm.
So it's just a practice. Are you, and it sounds like you're willing to start experimenting with this and just look at it like you're experimenting. I'm just going to start to experiment with life. We're going to try things differently.
Mhm.
And let's see what happens. Because today, there was a sense of surprise that you got that support, even though you freaking needed it.
Mhm.
You were frustrated and the line was crossed. And that's why the frustration showed up because you didn't work out Friday all weekend. Yesterday, you didn't work out. Today was your day. This is your class. Of course, the
Mhm.
frustration showed up because she's like, what the F?
Mhm.
I need some me time.
Mhm.
So you use that passion, that fire, the frustration to fuel you to ask for the help
Mhm.
rather than it taking you out.
Mhm.
So you are doing it already, Sarah. I want to celebrate
Mhm.
you. You are doing it.
Mhm.
You've been doing it with actively continuing to work out to move some of the tension in your body. But I wonder if we could find a way where you have more ease. And that's what we're going to keep exploring together is to have more ease, even though it's hard. Today you had more ease because you asked for the help you needed.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, more ease. And I guess it just also allows you to build connections with people because people do want to reciprocate. I mean, like if I went and stayed with somebody, I mean, I would want to be able to do something to like help out. If you
Right.
just kind of like won't allow that to happen, then I mean, you can only like build your closeness like so far.
Correct. Well, and it's trusting yourself. You're really learning to trust yourself because you outsourced your trust before to your ex-husband, to even maybe a little bit with Eduardo is a much healthier dynamic, but there was still you weren't fully allowing him to be in because you didn't fully trust yourself.
Mhm.
Really learning to fully trust yourself and say, I'm going to have my own back. I'm going to honor what I need. And that looks like asking for help and not doing it all on your own anymore.
Mhm.
That's having your own back because you're freaking exhausted.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what are you taking away from our time together today?
I guess the big things would be allowing myself to have the feelings
Hmm.
and I guess I'm not going to say good or bad, but like positive or negative. I mean, just like, yeah, allowing myself to have all of the feelings and allowing myself to be open to like what the universe is putting out there to help me. Cause I think I am just like really closed off from even seeing the opportunities because I'm just always thinking like I'm just going to do it myself. So I guess just being open to that and being open to reaching out specifically to ask for help when it's needed.
Awesome. It felt good
Mhm.
today. Um, and then are you willing to start to have those conversations with your brain
Mhm. Mhm.
and just start to interrupt the self beat up and not make it wrong? We're not here to make any part of you wrong. We're here to be like, yep, I love you. I hear you. We're doing it new. We're trying.
Mhm.
Let's just be curious. So just bringing a little bit more curiosity into life because I have a sense that the universe has been trying to support you, but when you're inside the turtle shell all the time, it makes it really hard.
Mhm.
And now we're just starting to get your limbs out of the turtle shell, so maybe you can break the shell and be free to be fully you.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then how's it been going with the Muse method? Are you still doing that 3 times a day?
It's been good. Yeah.
Awesome. Have you
Yeah.
noticed any changes like related to your goals about being more connected and confident and content, or not related to your goals, like outside of you? Any changes outside of you that you're noticing?
I would say no. I wouldn't say I really have noticed any changes outside of me. I
Okay.
think as far as like my goals, I think doing the Muse method is like a good reminder of me needing to prioritize myself during those moments and like throughout the day, and not just like always having like the leftovers or nothing for
Okay.
myself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just keep noticing, if anything, like if you can keep notes of it, just anything you notice.
Okay.
If I know you're still like, maybe you're still doing the appreciation, which is great, but if you notice anything, just try to take note of it. Like,
Mhm.
today, like we talked about, because we acknowledged more of what actually happened. And that we didn't get into the frustration really, but we will continue to work with emotions and the different emotions so that you can have practices to move them through your body. But
Okay.
you already did that in a way today.
Uh-huh.
Ask for the help you needed because a boundary was crossed, and you move the emotion of frustration through your workout, whatever workout you ended up doing.
Mhm.
You physically did move the energy of the frustration through you, which is what is really important when our emotions arise. It's yes, being with them, but we've got to move them so that we can gather the information that came from it.
Mhm.
Information you gathered is, I need help.
Mhm.
I'm going to start reaching out for more help because I've got
Mhm.
kids and I'm doing it alone and I can't do this shit no more.
Mhm.
We're meant to live in tribe. We don't live in tribe. We don't live in villages. We are meant to live that way. So it's your body, your muse is just, she may get louder. I'll just say that. She may get louder. So this is why continuing to like just connect to yourself is really important so that you're not making yourself wrong for anything that's showing up,
Mhm.
because it's here for you. And now we're going to
Mhm.
keep using it to keep moving you rather than keep being buried by what was before.
Mhm.
Oh, that didn't work.
Right. No, it didn't.
So
Okay.
awesome. So, and are the notes still helpful for you when I follow up with the quick
Totally.
awesome. Okay,
Yes.
cool. And then are we on for our next week? Whatever your favorite?
Yep.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
That
sorry.
is good.
I'm like, yeah, it is Tuesday. I'm like, what day is it?
Yep.
Okay. I will see you next Tuesday. And Sarah, reach out if anything shows up between now and then. If you need any support or to celebrate, asking for help and be like, I did it. I asked for help. Whew, it was really scary. And I got help.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And if things just hit the fan and you're like, oh crap, it's really hard, you can reach out real time and just share it's really hard. It's okay to do that too.
Okay.
That way you can have somebody else outside of you also meeting you in that space, and I'm not going to fix you. I'm not going to, nope. I might ask you a question. That's it.
Mhm. Yeah. No, that's good because yeah, I think when you reach out to people, you don't always I think some people, especially men, interpret that to mean like you need them to fix the problem. And that's yeah, you just need somebody to hear it.
Right. And that's what you're doing by voicing it, is you're getting it outside of the darkness of you, and you're also trusting that you're going to be supported, that you don't have to do it all, and like this is a safe space where you get to voice anything, where nothing is going to be judged. This is a space where anything is welcome. So
Mhm.
when you have that place to come to, it might just start to soften you to be able to do it with yourself when you're by yourself, like holding your own hand in between our time together.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Thank
Awesome.
you.
I will follow up with the notes and the recording, and then I will see you next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.